Welcome to another English session. Our last topic was synonyms, which we discussed that synonyms are words that have similar meanings. We gave examples like clever is a synonym of intelligent. For example, when you say Aisha is a very clever student, it will mean the same as Aisha is a very intelligent student. I buy a new exercise book will mean I purchase a new exercise book, or I will purchase a new exercise book. Today we're going to look at another topic, which is antonyms. Our topic today is antonyms. We're going to look at the definition so that we understand our topic better. Now, look at the definition of antonyms. Antonyms are words that are opposite in meaning. Example, beautiful has an opposite meaning to the word ugly. Similarly, the word cheap has an opposite meaning to costly or expensive. Now let's get this. Fatu's drawing is beautiful, while mine is ugly. You can see the antonyms here. Beautiful is opposite to ugly. Example 2, my cousin likes buying expensive materials. She is unlike my sister who always buys cheap materials. If you look at the example here, the two words are opposite in meaning. You have expensive, meaning something very costly, and the opposite meaning is cheap, something that is not cheap. So, in short, antonyms are words that are opposite in meaning. For example, we get the word short, tall. Omar is a tall boy. Babu is a short boy. So you can see tall is opposite to short. Get ready to learn 50 words and their antonyms. This will help you to build your vocabulary if you understand them very well and use them accordingly. So here I'm going to give you 50 words, and each of the words will have their antonyms. Look at the table. You can see word and possible antonyms. You can see one English word may have more than one antonyms. You look at them on the board. The first word we have is formal. What is the opposite? It could be casual, informal, unofficial, depending on the context in which each word is used. For example, if I say, Aisha always wears formal dress, unlike Amina, who always wears casual dress. Here, the word formal may have an opposite meaning to the word casual. Again, formal also can have an opposite meaning to the word informal. For example, if I should say, I wrote a formal letter to the director, but Aisha wrote an informal letter to her friend. So here also, we can understand that formal could have an opposite meaning to the word informal. Now, formal also could have an opposite meaning to the word unofficial. I wrote a formal letter, which is official letter. So that would also have an opposite meaning to an unofficial. He said he wrote a formal letter to the director. The opposite will be unofficial letter. We move on. Reluctant could have an opposite meaning to the word willing, ready. If I say, I gave them the instruction, but they were reluctant, meaning that they were not willing, they were not ready. So reluctant will have an opposite meaning to the word either willing or ready. We look at number 4, mild, painful. Number 5, worthless, valuable, important. Now read number 6 to 10 and think about their meaning. Good. So number 6, near, far. Literate, illiterate. When we talk of literate, we mean somebody who can read and write. So the opposite is illiterate, somebody who can read and write. Now take note, when we talk of literate, it doesn't mean somebody who can speak only English language, but it means somebody who can read and write any language. Once the person can read and write, the person is literate. So what is the opposite? Illiterate. Who is an illiterate person? Somebody who cannot read, who cannot write any language. That's what we call illiterate. But once the person can read and write any language, that person can no longer be called illiterate. That person is called literate. We move on. You look at them. Good. Now we move on. Now look at number 11, permanent, temporary. Now take note, we don't say temporal. We don't say temporal, but we say temporary, which is opposite to permanent. Use that class temporary. This is their permanent class. This is their temporary class, not this is their temporal class. Take note of that. This is their permanent class. The opposite is this is their temporary class, not this is their temporal class. We move on. Shy, bold, brave. Abandoned, looked after. Depart, arrive. Shabbily, expensively. Now we look at the word shabbily, poorly. Said Omar always dresses shabbily. He always dresses poorly. So the opposite of that shabbily is expensively. Simple, complex, complicated, or difficult. Biased, firm. Care, laziness, optimistic, pessimistic. When we talk of optimistic, we mean hopeful. I'm optimistic that you can do the job. I am hopeful that you can do the job. So the opposite of optimistic is pessimistic. They were pessimistic. They were doubtful. They were not hopeful. You okay? Now look at number 8, monotonous, bland, interesting. Look at the example. The diet we were given was monotonous, meaning that was not balanced. But when you say the lesson was monotonous, meaning that the lesson was not interesting. So you can see the context in which the word is used determine the meaning most. Ordinary, unusual, authentic, fake, false. When we talk of something authentic, something original, something valid, bring your authentic documents. The one that you gave us is false, it's fake. You can see. Now let's continue, we look at this. Exit, entrance. This is the exit gate, and that one is the entrance gate. Use the entrance gate to enter and the exit gate to leave. Entrance, exit are antonyms. Exit means to leave. Entrance means to enter. So the two words are opposite. We look at number 32. Flexible, conservative, rigid. My father is very flexible. You can always convince him. What is the opposite of flexible is conservative. If somebody is conservative, the person is not flexible. So it could also mean rigid. These are rigid laws, meaning that they cannot be easily changed. But when you say these are flexible laws, it can be changed easily. So you can see the opposite here in flexible and conservative and rigid. Now you look at 33, vices, virtue, intake, rejection, nomadic, immovable, insane, sober, liberal, conservative, accept, reject, sure, uncertain, doubt, punished, rewarded, praised. Now look at here again, number 40. The word punished, it is used in the past tense. The antonym also must be in past tense. When you say they were punished severely, the antonym cannot be they were rewarded. It should be they were rewarded. When you say he punished them, you cannot say he praises them. It should be he praised them. That agreement should always come. When you have punished ed, the antonym must also have the same ed. So this means that you cannot remove the ed from the word reward, and you cannot also remove d from the word praise. You take note of that. We move on. We look at this. 42. Enemy, friend. temporary, permanent. We discussed this earlier, that the word that has an opposite meaning to permanent, not temporal, but temporary. Rejected, accepted. We discussed this. We said when the word has ed in the past tense, then the antonyms also must carry the same ed. For example, they rejected the offer, meaning that the offer was not taken. What is the opposite? Accepted. So you cannot say they accept the offer. You say they accepted the offer. We move on. Look at the other examples from 44 to 50. Look at them. Read the instructions, then we move on. From the option lettered A to D, choose the one which is nearly opposite in meaning to the underlined word in each sentence. Now look at the sentences. Number 1, his brother was reluctant to let him go to the concert. Now, which of these options has an opposite meaning to the underlined word, which is reluctant? Okay? Which word? Willing. You can see his brother was reluctant to let him go to the concert. The opposite meaning here is the word willing. Said his brother was willing to let him go to the concert. When you say his brother was reluctant to let him go to the concert, means that his brother did not want him to go. Unlike if you say his brother was willing to let him go to the concert, meaning that his brother was interested or wanted him to go to the concert. So here our answer goes to option C, which is willing. Number 2, Fatu prefers to wear formal clothes. Now look at the options and then you tell me the correct one. Here the correct one is casual. We discussed earlier that formal could have an opposite meaning to the word casual. He said he always wears casual dresses, not formal dresses. We are quite sure that the woman was mad. Which of these words has an opposite meaning to the word mad? Right? Conscious, sane, serious. Here we're going for conscious, which has an opposite meaning to the underlying word mad. We are quite sure that the woman was conscious, meaning she was mentally fit. But when you say we're quite sure that the woman was mad, means that the woman was mentally ill. So here, among the options, conscious is the word that has an opposite meaning to the underlying word mad. We move on. We look the direct route to the city. Look at the options: coastal, roundabout, bush, shortest. So our option is roundabout because it is not direct. Number 5, that was a good response. Which word has an opposite meaning to the word response? We have statement, command, question, rejection. The word that has an opposite meaning to response is question. He responds to my questions. He questioned me and I responded. So respond has an opposite meaning to the word question. We move on. The judge was merciless. We look at the underlined word, which is merciless, and the options are careful, merciful, joyful, and senseless. So here we're going for merciful. Number 7, we watch the junior squad practice. The underlined word here is genio. So which of these options is the correct word that has an opposite meaning to the word genio? Old, senior, experience, elder. Here we're going for the word senior, because it has an opposite meaning to the underlined word genio. So we cannot go for old, we cannot also go for elder, we cannot go for experience, because we are looking at antonyms. So the word that has an opposite meaning to the word genio is senior. We move on, number 8. After independence, most of the colonial rulers arrive. Which word has an opposite meaning to the word arrive? Is it move, transferred, departed, or came? We're going for the word departed because it is the opposite meaning to the word arrive. They arrived late and departed late. So arrive has an opposite meaning to the word departed. Number 9, the strength of the storm weakened during the night. So look at the underlined word, weakened. Ended, increased, arose, broke. So we're going for what? Increase, because it's the opposite word. Number 10, the students received the news with joy. Among the options, which one has an opposite meaning to the underlined word? Happy, expectations, sadness, happiness. We're going for sadness, which is the opposite of joy. Joy means happy, of course, so option A cannot work because we are looking at antonyms. If it was synonym that we are looking at, then happy would have been the correct one. But we are looking at antonyms, so we cannot use happy. What do we use? Sadness. It is the opposite meaning to the word joy. If he were innocent, he wouldn't talk that way. So which of these words has an opposite meaning to the word innocent? Guilty. In the court, you are either innocent or guilty. So innocent has an opposite meaning to the word guilty. Mr. Ba is a generous man, a kind somebody who can always give. So here we look at the options. Economical. If somebody is very stingy, he's mean, he's economical. The person is not generous. Number 13, some people act carefully when they are in danger. So the options are suddenly, rashly, firmly, promptly. Here the word carefully would have an opposite meaning to the word promptly. We said some people act carefully. They do not do it promptly. They take their time. In times of danger, they don't just jump and act. So here carefully would have an opposite meaning to the word promptly. Number 14, some people do things that make them infamous in society. What is the opposite word? Renowned. A renowned somebody means a famous person. Now, infamous would mean somebody who's not popular. So if you look at here, the options, the word renowned would actually give the opposite meaning to the word infamous. We move on. Elephant grass is found in arid regions. What is the opposite of arid? Wet. It is obvious that many people prefer affluence to poverty. So the two words are opposite. False witnesses castigate rather than exonerate the accused. Some teachers dissuade students from studying mathematics, but others motivate them. When you dissuade, you discourage people. The opposite of discourage is motivate or persuade in the other way around. Houses built with bricks are sturdy, while those built with glass are dust. Our option here is what? Fragile. When we talk of sturdy, we mean something very strong. All right? And when we talk of fragile, something that is not strong and can easily be broken. So we move on. Tom's is refined, but his brother is rather unskillful. So here we got refined and unskillful is the opposite. Now, we look at them, refined, somebody who has skills, very creative. The opposite is somebody who lacks it. Number 22, lions are in extinctions in the Gambia, but monkeys are still in dust. The two words here, extinction and existence. Lions are in extinction, meaning they are not available. And monkeys are in existence in the Gambia, meaning they are available. So existence would be opposite to extinction. Rather than heed the advice, the children does it. Heed, consider. Rather than heed the advice, the children ignore it. You're given advice, you do not give heed to the advice, but you ignore. Number 24, good policies alleviate poverty, whereas bad ones does it. So which word has an opposite meaning to the word alleviate is aggravate. If you have good policies in governance, it alleviates poverty. But bad ones will always aggravate it. Number 25, books in the library are expected to be well dashed, not jumbled. What are the words? Numbered, documented, arranged, listed. You see, if you get to the library, books are numbered. But we are not interested in that because we are looking at the opposite word. If something is jumbled up, meaning that it is not arranged, it is not organized. So we're going for the word arrange with ed. Omar is stingy, but his brother is generous. Stingy is somebody who does not give out, very economical, and generous, somebody who is very kind, somebody who can give out. So we say Omar is stingy, but his brother is generous. Rice importation is permitted whereas the importation of cement is prohibited. Something permitted meaning something allowed to do. The opposite of that is prohibited. So you cannot use unacceptable, although if you look at them, they are similar. Take note of that. Permitted, unacceptable. But because prohibited is there, then unacceptable cannot be correct. License suspended. Suspended also cannot be correct. So we move on. The cast consisted of many famous actors and few infamous ones. Both sides are very hopeful about the outcome of the peace talk, but observers are still pessimistic. They are hopeful. The principal of that school was demoted for his incompetence, while several others were promoted. So you can see the opposite: demoted, promoted. Another work. From the option lettered A to D, choose the one which is nearly opposite in meaning to the underlined word in each sentence. The official who disclosed the information, he was suspended to, was sacked. So the options are cover, protect, conceal, allow. Now you're going to choose the correct one. It's unlike the previous work. Number 2, the prosecutor argued his case vehemently, but the defense lawyer responded roughly. A. B. Constantly. C. Feebly. And D. Hurriedly. Number 3, while we expected it to be gradual, the process of the transition to civilian rule came to an end. Now look at the options: abrupt, anticipated, unhappy, unpleasant. We move on, number 5. Thank you. So that's the end of our lesson, and I hope that you have learned and understood what antonyms are. So as we discussed, these are words that have opposite in meaning: beautiful, ugly, cheap, expensive. I hope that you will do your assignment before our next class. Thank you all for your kind attention. And as I always advise you, stay at home, focus on your TV, do your assignment, don't go out, always use soap and water to wash your hand. Thank you very much, and I wish all of you all the best.